Everyone, hope you're doing well. Had a great call today on Clubhouse, and today's topic, there was a situation where agent was representing the seller. Buyer submitted a offer with full appraisal gap coverage, and appraisal came in lower than what was expected, which I know we're seeing some of those now. And the buyer has decided that they are going to be terminating based off of financing because they have lack of funds to cover down payment plus appraisal gap coverage in full. And it wasn't disclosed to the seller, to the listing agent, that the buyer actually had a home to sell in order to get all of the proceeds. They provided proof of funds to show that originally that they could cover gap coverage, but those proof of funds was really in addition to them actually selling their current home. And so they're going to be terminating. And the conversation today was around how, what's the right steps of, protecting a potential seller on the buy side. Should the home sale contingency, I guess it wasn't technically contingent on them selling the home, even though it kind of was, what needs to be disclosed. But what I wanted to really talk about was, the idea around earnest money, non-refundable deposits, and just a deposit, because there's a difference. And I did a video about this the other day. And in this situation, through this conversation, I think the only way to really protect your seller in a situation where the buyer is willing to cover any gap coverage in the event of a low appraisal is for us to increase the deposit amount. We're not going to call it earnest money, and we're not going to call it non-refundable, but it's a deposit. And obviously you want to run this by your broker. You want to understand what is legal in your state. But by us just calling it the deposit, it does not follow the terms of our contract that's required for earnest money. So that's a difference, right? And again, I'm assuming probably with non-refundable, like the video from the other day, it probably cannot be held by either brokerage. But this deposit money will be returned to the buyer in the event that they close on the property, in the event that they back out due to inspections, but in the event that they back out due to financing, that this not earnest money. See, even you caught me. This deposit money will be automatically given to the seller, within 24 to 48 hours. And in my case, or what I would suggest is I would increase that deposit amount. Let's just say, it's a $450,000 purchase, list price, and the buyers offer $550,000 with full gap coverage. To me, I would have that deposit amount be about 50 grand, right? And if the buyer decides to walk away due to a low appraisal and therefore not getting financing, then that $50,000 would automatically go to the seller. And I think that's really the only way for us to curb, a buyer, submitting, these contracts where they state that they're going to cover any gap coverage, and then deciding to walk away because it came in way, the appraised value came in way lower than what anyone expected. And we do see that from time to time. The one thing about appraisals is we don't know what's going to come back as far as value goes. And when you're writing such a vague offer and a buyer is willing to say, we'll cover any amount, especially when the houses are going, 50, 60, 70, 100,000. I talked to an agent the other day here in Columbus, went $175,000 over list price and was willing to cover anything. There has to be more skin in the game for the buyer. And as the listing agent, that is one way for you to protect your seller client. So, run that scenario by your broker, run that scenario by, some real estate attorneys in your state, and get that drafted. Because ultimately my job is to protect the seller, when we get that type of offer. And if a buyer's not going to follow those terms of the contract, and their earnest money or deposit money is very low, then it's less risk for them, right? Hey, I'm only going to lose X amount. But if we are able to increase that amount to where it's a little bit more painful, where they have to second guess whether or not they want to back out due to financing, then the sale may actually go through. So I hope that helps. Get the information that you need from your brokers, from your real estate attorneys in your state of how to draft that up, and make sure you're protecting your seller clients in those situations.